Hey, friends, this week we got a special treat for you. Today, we're going to dive into our theme for the month, Renewed and Refresh. But we're inviting you to cozy up with us as we reflect on family traditions that both Steve and I do every year and looking back at fun family traditions that we had growing up. We'll reflect on joys, traditions that make the holidays magical, and share how we as a couple carve out intentional time to build a vision for the year ahead. So let's celebrate what matters most, and that's family, love, and fresh beginnings. So go grab a cup of cocoa or hot tea and come join us in this week's episode. Hey everyone, I'm Leslie Martinez, and you're listening to your Joyful Order podcast. Each week, I will bring you joyful stories that will motivate and inspire you, and at the same time, bring order to your everyday life. Let's just say the show will be a mixture of preaching and teaching with a kick of motivation from your girl here. Welcome to your Joyful Order podcast. All right, friends. So this week, I don't need a fancy introduction. As you guys know, Steve is a big part of the podcast, my amazing husband. He is the backbone to this podcast. So this week, I thought it would be great to have him come on as we just share some of our family traditions during the holiday season. We've never done an episode like this. I typically take the month of December off because we're deep in our holiday traditions. But this year, I thought it would be fun for us to just share with you, our audience, some of the fun memories that we've had. So let's start with family traditions. Steve, what is your earliest memory of a childhood tradition that you and your family did growing up during the holidays?
So I grew up in the city of Santa Fe Springs, and Santa Fe Springs has a really cool float that they do for Christmas, and that float has Santa on it with Santa's elves, and it goes throughout the city of Santa Fe Springs. And one of the things that we always did as kids is we always went to go take pictures with Santa Claus, and we got candy canes, and we were able to enjoy that, wait in a really long line, and then take our Polaroid picture with Santa Claus.
Okay, but you have to share something special about that float also, because not only were you guys, like, as kids, able to go see Santa, like, kinda share a little more about that.
So once I got older and my parents decided, you know what, we don't have kids anymore, they decided to be Santa and Santa Claus themselves, which is actually super cool because my mom and dad loved it. They went throughout the city. They did private house calls to families in need, and they were on the float. They would go into the residence of the families in need, and they would be Santa and Mrs. Claus. So, and they did it for, I'm guessing, at least 10 years,
Yes,
at
every
least.
year for quite some time, your parents did it, and we got to hear all the fun stories of them doing it. And then also, our boys were kind of in that when they were little, they got to go and see grandma and grandpa dressed as Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus. So we have pictures with your dad dressed as Santa and your mom with Mrs. Claus, on the float when they were little, I think, right? And I know we have some, if not, they like, so your dad would just dress up for some of our Christmas parties too, remember? He would just show up. We have parties for the kids, and your mom made him an amazing dark red velvet Santa Claus suit, and we just have grandpa would just show up with gifts.
Yeah, he had his own suit.
Yes, and he still has his own suit to this day that we actually borrowed last year, remember? We
Mhm.
borrowed it for a photo shoot. So, that is something, I think that is a great memory, and that's kind of a memory that I have with your parents too. Now, I would say for me growing up, my special memory that I have now, I've shared a lot and not to, like, damper the season, but this truly is, like, my favorite memory. So, I don't have very many good memories with my father growing up, but Christmas time was one of the good memories that I had with my dad. So, we always went to go pick a real Christmas tree out at the lot, and we kinda made it a thing. Like, my dad always knew, "Okay, let's go this weekend, let's go pick out your tree." And there was a big age gap between me and my sister. We're like almost 6 years apart. So there was a long period where my sister was just over it. She was a teen and she just really didn't care. So then it was just me and my dad that would go in his little Toyota yellow pickup truck. We'd go to the lot and I'd get to pick out the tree. And he'd, put the tree out, he'd get it, put it in his little yellow pickup truck, and then we drive home. He'd set it up, and then me, my mom, and my sister would decorate it. But it was always a exciting time for me because, 1, it was just me and my dad, and then it was just a fond memory that I had. I have very few fond memories with my dad, so that is just one that I hold on to, tight for sure. And then even as our boys got older,
Mhm.
we kinda carry that tradition of going in the lot, right?
Yep. Up until last year.
Up until la you guys, last year is the first time we got a fake tree, and that's only because we started paying, like, ridiculous amounts, like $200 for a a real tree, y'all. It was crazy. So, we decided, you know what, we're putting out, like, 180 to $200 for a real tree. We might as well put that money into a fake tree and have it much longer than just a couple of weeks during Christmas time. So, yes, it was more of a, I don't wanna say investment, but more of a budget-driven
It was a
decision.
business
It
decision.
was a business decision, there you go, it was a business decision.
Yeah,
Uh,
'cause, those trees are heavy. And I'm not getting younger,
yeah,
and this year, Noah was not here when we put the tree up, so he was my partner in crime with the Christmas tree,
to get the
and
trees.
they're
Yes.
not they're not light, at least
No.
the ones that Leslie wants.
Yeah, you guys, I am looking for, like, the 8 to 9-foot trees, and then, I'm really bougie when it comes to trees because 'cause I'm actually allergic to the Douglas firs, which are, like, the cheaper trees, and I don't say cheaper as in cheap quality. Those are just the cheaper in price trees.
Yeah.
But I'm very allergic to those. So we kinda have no choice but to go with, like, the noble firs, which are the most expensive of the trees. And then, of course, the taller you go, the more expensive they get. So, yeah, $200 for a tree that's gonna be out for, like, 3 weeks. It was a budget decision, a business decision, so to say. Now, moving on to, our childhood memories, there's actually, hold on, I have to share this one also. So not only going to the lot with my dad, another fun family tradition that I have, and we can kind of banter off this a little bit because we still carry this with our kids now. Christmas Eve is a big thing for my mom's side of the family. So my Ramirez family, that side of the family, since I was a little girl, my mom is one of 11, y'all. So I have like a gajillion cousins, right? And I am on the younger end of the cousins that I grew up with. So I had all these fun older cousins, some that are just like 1, 2 years older than me, some that are like 10, 12 years older than me. But Christmas Eve was our time that all of the family got together. We had family in Sacramento, family from different parts of the state that would come, drive down, and that was the only time of year we got to see them. Well, we had a big celebration on Christmas Eve with all the food, and all us kids would get together and just have so much fun. We would put on a talent show. We would dress in like our Christmas pajamas, big fancy dresses sometimes, and we would all put on a little talent show for our family, and I remember a lot of times it would be at our house, and my mom had this, like, um, a step-in den kind of, which made, remember in our house, like, my mom had this, like, area where it almost seemed like a stage, and there was even, like, curtains, so you could close the curtains and you'd stand in, like, the living room, and people would sit in our den, and we'd put all of our family in chairs in the den, we'd open the curtains, and then we would perform for, like, my mom, dad, our aunties and uncles, and it was just so much fun. We'd do games, and to this day, a couple years ago, we were doing karaoke, right? We did
Mm.
karaoke, we do fun games, and then we sing happy birthday to Jesus, and that's a fun family tradition that we have carried with our boys, since they were born. I want us to share a fun um, a funny or like just memorable holiday moment that you had either as a kid or us as a family during the holidays? Something that every time you think about it, you just laugh or smile, and it's just something that you won't live down.
Yeah, that actually brings to mind my mom's mother
Mm.
passed away when I was like 2021ish, and I was her second grandson or her second grandchild, and the first boy on that side of the family. And my when my grandma would come and visit, she would always rub my shoulders. And I don't really like people rubbing my shoulders, but my grandmother would rub my shoulders. I don't even know if Leslie knows this. I don't know if I ever told you that. Have I ever told you
I don't
that?
remember it,
Well,
no.
she would come to the house, and she would normally come during the holidays or something like that, and she would rub my shoulders. Well, this year, this one year that comes to mind, Leslie, myself, and our family went to go visit my grandmother in Rosemont, California, and it's a desert out there. And we were getting ready to eat, and it was the time to eat. My grandmother made delicious tamales. My grandmother made unique. It was a different masa, and it was a different flavored meat as well. And that was the great thing about both my grandparents. My grandmothers, they made tamales, but they taste completely different. And it was time to sit down. We got down, and we sat at the table. My tamale was warm, and it was time for me to start eating. I started eating, and all of a sudden, I felt something in my mouth, and I'm never gonna forget this. Like, this is one of those things where, again, being the first boy grandchild, I definitely got favorable treatment, right? And so uh, I I spit out what I was chewing on, and it come to find out it was actually a fingernail with red nail polish on it. And so, like, I think I leaned over to Leslie. I think she was sitting next to me at this time, right, Les? And I was like, "Look what I found." And my grandmother, she knew something was going on, and she's like, "What are you talking about?" I think she told me in Spanish, like, "What are you talking about?" And I had told her, "Well, I found a fingernail in my tamale, grandma." And she's like, "That's where it went. I totally lost one while I was making the tamales. So you're the lucky winner."
She didn't just lose one, remember?
Oh, that's right. She's
She
like, I
held her
found one.
hands up and she said, "Oh, yeah, I lost a few making the masa," and it was like every other nail was broken. Everybody stopped eating their tamale. Okay, that is probably my favorite funny memory also, and it's just oh my gosh, it's just your grandma, like,
She didn't care. She was like, "Well, you'll
she
find more."
truly did not give a crap whatsoever. She was just like, "Oh, yeah, you're the winner. By the way, you're gonna find 5 more."
Yeah.
And
She was
it
so
wa
nonchalant about it too, huh?
she d exactly, she did not give a flying crap, like, that you were chewing on her fingernail.
I don't even think she apologized now that I
She
think about it.
did it. It was just, "Oh, well, they're still good, right?"
How's it taste?
Oh my gosh. One, I actually have red nail polish on today too, so this is an
That's funny.
honor to Grandma Nana because she always had red nail polish, like, always had red nail polish. I do remember that, and I almost wanna say it was like a glitter red, which is what I have on today,
Mhm.
and I
It was
never
like
red nail polish.
it was like that, like the old school red. Like,
It was like the Avon red nail polish.
yeah, that's what it was. It was like the Avon red.
Oh my gosh, that story alone, we will never live down. I think
And we didn't
it's
have kids, right? We weren't even married.
no, we weren't even married yet. I think we were just engaged at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if this was I don't remember if your grandpa was there at that time. I don't think so. I think your grandpa
Oh.
had
Yeah,
passed
passed away.
yeah, 'cause yeah, it was just like, your mom and dad and stuff, and that was just classic. Okay, so this is non-Christmas, but it's still the holidays. This happened during Thanksgiving. My sister's probably gonna totally kill me for sharing this story, but my sister is a true cook, okay? My sister is like the Martha Stewart of the family that loves to cook, she loves to host and all of that. Well, this Thanksgiving, I was hosting Thanksgiving at my house, and at the time, she was living with my mom, and my mom has this old, like, 1930s oven that you needed to put, like, a piece of foil in the door to hold it shut, kinda thing that thing was made of pure tin also. Well, my sister was living with her at the time, and my sister was making her famous stuffing. Now, my sister makes for Thanksgiving, she does kind of like a traditional soul food type of Thanksgiving with the collard greens, the stuffing has this, like, soul food taste to it, the sweet potato pie, the cornbread, like, she throws down for Thanksgiving. Well, this stuffing is a stuffing recipe that was passed down from her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law taught her how to make this stuffing, and it requires a lot of work, a lot of chopping, like, there's a lot of work that goes into the stuffing. So, we're at my house, and she brings, like, those silver tray, right? Those silver, what do you call it? Dispensable not dispensable, what's the word I'm looking for?
Foil tray?
Those foil trays, yeah, just like, the cheap little foil trays. Anyways, it's a big foil tray, like the biggest ones that you can get, and it is filled with stuffing. So she rolls up into the driveway of my house, and she wanted to put it in my oven because my mom's oven where she was staying at just sucks. So she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna" and this is my mom was, like, living down the street from us at this time. We were living in Norwalk. My mom was at the house that I grew up in. We lived a few blocks away from her. So she called and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna bring the stuffing to put in your oven." So I'm like, "Okay, cool." We dinner hasn't started yet or anything, she just rolls up and she goes to pull the tray out of her back seat. Well, rather than putting her hands on the bottom of it, she just grabs the sides of it, and the whole thing caves in, and there's stuffing all over her car, all over her pants, her shoes, my driveway, and I just hear her screaming my name, "Leslie," and I come opening the door to my house seeing what happened, and I just started laughing, like, laughing hysterically. I get my phone, I take a picture of her, and she's like, "Will you stop and help me?" Like, she didn't wanna move. She's like, "Get the tray." And she's holding it by the ends, and the whole thing is just, like, collapsed in, so I have to, like, grab the bottom. Thank God, like, only half of the tray spilt, but you got like, we're talking the biggest trays that you could get, it was full of it. So much of it was on her pants, on her shoes, on the car, on my driveway, and I'm cracking up, and my sister is so pissed. She's literally almost in tears because she worked so hard to make that stuffing, like, it takes her 2 days to get everything to make that stuffing.
A lot of chopping. It has eggs, it has, like, turkey, like,
Yeah,
right?
she smokes the turkey, like, it's the turkey neck that she smokes, and oh my gosh, and then the cornbread, she makes the cornbread from scratch that goes in there, like, it literally is so much work. The onions, the celery, all of that. It is like, the best stuffing. I absolutely love my sister's stuffing. So my sister was super pissed with that, and I went, and she was pissed that I took a picture before I helped her.
Do you still have the photo?
I have it somewhere, I have to look for it. This was, like, early 2000s, I think. I don't even know if the boys were born yet, maybe, I don't know. We had just bought our house. So if anything, Noah was maybe little during that time, but that's, like, my funny memory that I have, and my sister's so gonna hate me that's a memory because I laugh every time, like, I just think of walking out to my house or walking out to the driveway and seeing my sister there with just stuffing all the way down her shoes, and I think you had to get the water hose out to spray the
Yeah.
driveway down, huh, in her car?
Yeah, it
Um,
was a mess. It was a lot of stuffing.
it was a lot, and who knows, some wild animals had fun
Mm.
in the gutter or in our street gutter there once you watered it down. But that's a fun, memory that we have. Now, okay, these are memories that we've had kind of going back. Now let's talk about traditions that we made with our family, with just us, with the boys, because the holidays were a big thing for us. So what is a holiday tradition that you love that we carried with our boys, or that even that we started with our boys?
I know it was a lot of work, and I think at the end of the day, it brought character to not only the holidays, but it showed how important our families were. And I think maybe we've talked about it before in podcasts, but during Christmas, Christmas was a crazy time for us, especially when Leslie was working for the church. We we basically split up. I took the boys to my family, and we hung out with them for, I don't know, probably up until 7 or 8 maybe ish.
Mhm.
And then we would meet up with Leslie, and then once we meet up with Leslie, we would go to her family's house, and then after her family's house, we would go to midnight service. Luckily, at this time, actually, we did it in Norwalk and we did it in Covina, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
so it was rough. Like, that was a really crazy time for us. We were running. At the end of the day, we were running, and as much as we coulda gave up on going to one family, we decided not to, and I'm glad we didn't because the boys got to spend time with my grandparents. Actually, it was just my
Your grandpa, it
grandfather.
was just your grandpa.
Yeah, they got to spend time with their great-grandfather, their grandparents, and then they got to finish the night off at Leslie's family's house, and then go to, them finish the night off with church, and I think maybe they don't remember that, but it was hectic for us, and the reason why I say I brought it up to be one of those great memories because, like, that was time that I got to spend with the boys without Leslie that I'm never gonna get back. At the end of the day, I'm never gonna get back, and I'm glad I was able to do that because it was like, "Okay, we're going. Okay, guys, we're done. Let's head over and meet your mom," and then they went to go play with their cousins in probably somewhere with Leslie's family, and then after that, luckily, they stayed up the whole night.
Mhm. They would stay up for midnight. We had the midnight candlelight ceremony, and then, one of the things that I love is that as a staff so for Christmas Eve, we had 4 services on Christmas Eve, and one of them was midnight. We'd have, like, the 5, um no, we had 3. Or no, we did have 4 I don't know. We had, like, the 5, 6, and 7, was it? Or 5 and 7? I don't know. It was too many services. And then we'd have, like, a long gap, and that's how we were able to go to my family's house for a little bit and come back for that midnight service. But the staff, we got to bring the family up on stage, and we got to light the candles, which I think was a special memory. So you and the boys would come up, we'd have, like, the large candles, and the boys would get to walk with the big candles too and go and, like, at the end of each aisle, like, put their candle to everyone in the congregation. And then you just, like, look around and all the lights would go down, and then you look around and all these I mean, our worship center seated oh my gosh, I don't even remember, like, how many, babe? 5,000? No, not that
3
many.
th
1,000?
3 to
1,500? It
5?
was like 1,500, I don't know. Literally 1,000 people. You look around and it's lit, and then our worship band is singing, Silent Night, and it was the most magical, beautiful moment I think that we could have as a family, and it was allowing us to have that moment as a family with us, like, each family on stage, we kinda huddled together, right? It was like hey, the Martinez family, whatever, all the other families of the staff that got to be there. So that was great because since, yes, us staff had to be there, they still allowed us to incorporate our family into the services and that. And I think that was a great memory for sure. I'm gonna go with the fun memories that we created with the boys, not just about making church and family about, the important part of the holidays, but I grew up not, um like, Santa wasn't a thing for me growing up, My mom was which I love, is that Jesus is the reason for the season. So, Santa, we didn't bel or my home wasn't the home where Santa, showed up because it was just all about Jesus. So Santa never, put the stockings up or really stuffed the stockings. It was always, mom or dad, the presents. We never got presents under the tree that said from Santa. We never put out the cookies for Santa type of stuff. So that was stuff that I missed out in childhood. And although we laid the foundation for our boys and they know that Jesus is the reason for the season and they know that we're celebrating Jesus's birthday, I lived it up with doing the Santa stuff that I missed out on as a kid. Um, we did the whole Elf on a Shelf thing also, which that was like a whole love or hate kind of thing there for the Elf on the Shelf, but we did the cookies for Santa, we'd leave carrots out, we even put, like, the glitter oats out for the reindeer, we just did fun little stuff like that to just bring the wonder and magic of the season for the boys, and, uh, we we came up with some pretty crazy antics that our elf would get into, and, like, toilet papering the tree or, writing on the mirrors in their bathrooms. I mean, the elves did some pretty crazy, crazy shenanigans, and I think just incorporating that stuff, it also I think kind of and I know this is, like, now we're turning into a therapy session here because it kind of filled a void of childhood stuff that I missed out on.
Mm.
Being able to do that for the boys, it's like all that magic and wonder of the seasons that I was robbed of as a kid, I was able to bring it to my boys and then also experience it myself. And then another tradition that we do that we still carry on, and my boys absolutely do it with like what how can I say, like, they do it kicking and screaming, but with a smile, is the tradition of the Bass Pro Shop. So, again, I don't have, as a kid, a picture with Santa Claus because we didn't do Santa Claus. So we take our boys every year to the Bass Pro Shop, and I think we started this because we learned about it when I think Jacob was, like, 1 or 2, right? So our youngest son, so then Noah was maybe, like, about 5 years old, and we take him to the Bass Pro Shop, and they take a picture with Santa every year, and the Bass Pro Shop does this huge Santa's Village. It's a big thing. It's like a legit Santa, a real good-looking Santa with the real beard and everything, blue eyes and everything, and they have this just wonderful setup, and you get 1 free picture with Santa, and they give you a free little 4 by 6 picture in this cute little frame with the year and everything on there. So, we started this tradition of taking them there, and Bass Pro Shop, if you've never taken your kids to Bass Pro Shop, it's just a fun adventure. They have fish tanks in there, there's all kinds of cool stuff that your kids can go and play with, they set up, like, all these little play areas for the kids, and it's just super fun. You do have to make reservations online, so I will tell you that, go check it out, but we have been taking the kids there every year, and we still take the boys there. Shh, they're gonna be so mad that I shared this, but because I missed out on, like, experiencing that magic during the Christmas time, I didn't want them to, and because I never had a picture with Santa, I wanted them to have 20 pictures with Santa every year. So, we have Noah is 19, Jacob is 16, and they're gonna go take a picture with Santa this year, and as they begin to get older and they're like, "Mom, I don't wanna go." I'm like, "The only thing I ask from each of you for Christmas each year is that we go together for as a family, go get the picture with Santa, and then we go and enjoy dinner afterwards, and we maybe, like, might go look at some lights or something." I think a couple of years we've went to Thoroughbred Lane after, which is in Rancho Cucamonga, which is
Crazy.
where, Bass Pro Shop is. So I'm telling you guys all this so that you guys can maybe create some fun family traditions with your little ones too, but we will be making reservations for this year. I told my boys, until Jacob is 18,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna do this for me until he graduates. So that way I will have all of these pictures of them while they were in school together. So this we have 2 more. This year and next year will be the last that I will make them do this, and then after that, it'll be by choice if they wanna keep the tradition, and maybe when and if they have their own children, it'll be something that they can create with their own, family as well. So that is a fun tradition I think that we, started.
We even
Now
have it COVID year,
oh, yeah, we did they were wearing masks. Yes, that's right.
and
Oh,
Santa
we
was
did.
behind a plexiglass.
Yes. So Santa is, like, behind a plexiglass. There's, like, a bench in front of the plexiglass, and the boys have their mask on, for 2020. That's right. So, like, we did not lose a year because of that. So, yeah, I think the first year, I wanna say is 2010. So we've been
Probably.
doing it for, like, 14 years. I'll have to look at our pictures, and then if you guys if you ever walk into my house, I've shared this before in previous years. I'll have to share it on my social media again, but I have this huge ribbon hanging in our hallway of every picture of them, so you can see the very first one to the most recent one of them. Actually, last year's picture is not on there yet because I ran out of ribbon space. Yeah. So, I'm gonna have to start another ribbon on the other side, and I haven't figured that out yet. Now, one of the things that I want to kinda transition to is just our quality time. During the season, it gets so hectic with all of these holiday events. Now that the boys are older, it's easier for us to kind of hop around and do all of these fun different things, but what were some challenges that you think we faced during the holidays? I mean, we kind of mentioned the whole Christmas Eve thing, but what were some challenges that we had that allowed us to kind of make it a point for you and me? Because I think it's important for people to know too that even though when you have little kids, like, yes, it's all about them, but I think it's a priority for like couples, married couples to kind of have some time. So, maybe share some of the challenges that we had and some of the things that we did as a couple to make sure that we got some quality time during this season.
You know, I don't I don't remember what we did. Yeah, I don't remember what we did. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna throw that back at you, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna talk about how we spent quality time, like, recently together, and how, like, because we're in a transition period where the kids don't wanna do anything with us. And so instead of taking the kids, we decided to take the dogs. And so we started a tradition probably around the same time in 2010. We go out and see this home up here in I don't remember what city it's in. Is it
Lindora.
Glendora? Or it's on Flamingo Road, and it's now it's a block. It used to just be a home, but now it's like a whole cul-de-sac block that where they put on a whole light show. It's coordinated with the music, and you get to, like, sign in or turn on your radio and tune in to a specific channel to hear the music. It's super cool, and we've been taking the kids for, let's just call it 10 years. And this year, Noah's not here. Leslie asked Jacob, "Hey, do you wanna go?" He's like, "Nope, I'm okay, I'll pass." And so we took the dogs, and that was our time together. We went to Donut Man, got hot chocolate, sat with the dogs and watched a whole sequence of the light show and the music, and then we came back home. So, I mean, that's a good that is even though, like, we didn't really, like, talk or anything like that, me and Leslie were able to do that together, and I think that's really all that matters is that we were able to spend time together and go to one of our most favorite places to get donuts, which is Donut Man.
Yeah, we did do that. We did it last year also,
Mhm.
like, none of the boys wanted to come with us, and I also wanna say maybe the year before. So I think this is our 3rd year where we've just taken the dogs because our boys don't wanna go with us. Our oldest son, Noah, now takes his girlfriend, and they go together. So, which I absolutely love because that's all about traditions, right? Is he knew that, "Hey, this is a tradition that I did with my family, and now he takes his girlfriend to do this tradition." So, they went right before Thanksgiving when they were both home from school, and they went to go see the streets on Flamingo Street, and he didn't even tell us he was going until after. He was like, "Oh, yeah, mom, we went to go see, the lights on Flamingo Street," and I was like, "What?" This was during actually, I think it was before Thanksgiving. And I was like, "They had him up?" He's like, "Yeah, they had him up." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool." I That just melted my heart to know that he is carrying that tradition. Like, now he's bringing his girlfriend in to do it, and they get to do that tradition together. So that's what traditions is all about, is you do it together and then you just pass it on and bring more people in to be able to experience that tradition. And that's why we're kind of doing this episode, just to share some of the family traditions that we've done. But I think one of the things that you and I have always done also, and this is kind of just as a couple too, because our boys have always been in the parade, so doing the Covina parade, we just
Oh
did
yeah.
it last weekend too. It's always been you and me kinda sitting on the curb there because our boys have been part of the parade, or they just didn't wanna go because they didn't wanna freeze their butts off, sitting there and watching what they call, "Oh, it's a boring parade." Our local city here, the city of Covina, puts on a parade. It's the first Saturday of December every year, and it is just a fun parade where it's the local community just coming together, local bands, local music groups, just local businesses come together. They put floats on, even, youth programs. You have, like, your AYSO groups, your, baseball, your, what do you call it, Little League, your Girl Scout troops. They just come and they march in this parade, or they put a float together, and it's just so much fun. So, the boys have been in it numerous times for their, activities that they've been in, sports, cheer, all of that, and it's been fun. Steve and I just sit, Steve photographs, I sit and kind of embrace it all, and I don't know why, in the beginning of the parade, it's, like, always that first wave of people that come out, always the first band that comes out. The minute that I hear, like, the marching band turning the corner, singing Jingle Bells or whatever Christmas tune it is, I tear up. I don't know, it's just such a fun parade, and seeing that our little community come together, it feels like one of those Hallmark movie type of
Mhm.
things, even though we don't live in this quaint little town, but it just has those Hallmark movie vibes of, like, the community coming together for this little parade, and something that we look forward to every year. I just get emotional over it. So I always tear when that first marching band comes around. I'm just like, "Oh, this is just so pretty. I just love it." And Steve looks at me sideways like, "Why are you crying?" Like, that's something fun that I think we always, like, get to do together.
And it's so serious that we have to go put our chairs out
Oh,
now, like 36 hours in advance. It
yeah.
used to be like 24, but now it's more like 36.
Y'all, our community just loves it. Like, so it's the first Saturday in December, and we had to go put our chairs out at 2 o'clock the Friday before, 2 p.m. the Friday before, and we were already late. Our spot that we normally get was gone already, y'all. Let's just tell you that. My mom called me at around, like, noon or something, I think, and she was like, "Have you gone and put your chairs out yet?" Because she was going down Padillo to her dentist, and she's like, "Everyone has their chairs out already." I'm like, "Oh, crap, we normally do it the night before," so we were late this year, 2 p.m., we were rolling up late, we missed our spot. I mean, we still put our chairs next to our spot, but the spot that we really like had got taken. We just had to move, like, 2 chairs over from them to the left, so we still we're right at the corner at the end where we get the parade kinda turning, because that's the best spot for pictures.
Yeah.
So that is another fun family tradition for sure, but I think some of the challenges going back to that, when they're younger and we were working, like, for sure, the whole Christmas Eve, me working in ministry was absolutely crazy. December was a month. I typically never took any time off because, everybody's coming to church and it's a very busy time for churches and ministry. So it was stressful and overwhelming for me. And that stress and overwhelm was self-inflicted, I think, because not only did I have a full-time job, little kids, but I was the one that wanted to make everything magical for the kids. And Steve helped a lot with that also, but there was just that, moms just have that extra stress of making this season, the shopping and the decorating and all that stuff that us moms typically do. So it's kind of that added stress. And I think as the boys are older now, it's not as stressful. We don't have to worry about moving the damn elf, every morning, waking up frantically, right? Waking up in the middle of the night sometimes like, did we move the elf? Making sure that we wake up before the boys did because we forgot to move the elf, or, those times that we completely forgot and they woke up before and we're just making up some story like, "Oh, I think he's just tired. I think he just needed to rest, or maybe he's sick." There's lots of different challenges, and I think the stress of having 2 families that celebrate on Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
that was hard, and wanting to, make sure that our boys were part of both family traditions. That definitely caused some stress some Christmas Eve, where sometimes we were a little at each other's throats sometimes, but then we just had to, like, remember, "Hey, it's all about family, and we will make it work," which is what Steve did all the time when he'd have to drive from church to grandpa's, back to church, to my family, back to church, then home, like, it was.
Yeah, and they weren't around the block.
No, we're talking from, at one point, from Norwalk to West Covina to Whittier, back to West Covina to Los Feliz area, back to West Covina, then to Norwalk. Like, y'all, if you're in California, Southern California, you know what that entails. Um, so a lot of time was spent in the car though, right?
Yep,
Fun.
listening to Christmas music.
Listening to Christmas music, yes. Now, what what advice would you give to families, babe, during this time of allowing them to not stress out so much?
I would advise, I guess, young parents to be patient because the kids are gonna wanna enjoy whatever they wanna enjoy, and sometimes it doesn't work the way you want it to work. Um, and if you're gonna be late, you're gonna be late. You're better off showing up rather than not showing up at all. And that was our attitude during Christmas Eve. And even though if we were at my grandparents' or my grandfather's house for maybe an hour to 2 hours, at least we were there. The boys got to hang out with them and just and appreciate that time that we did put aside because we were running, like I mentioned, and then we put the time aside for Leslie's family. And so now granted, would that time be better for just to allocate it to one family? That's up to you guys to decide. It was our vision to make sure that we spent it with both families. Now, even though Leslie was at work, at least me and the boys were at my family. And I would say as long as you guys are together, that's all that matters.
That's good. Yes, for sure. Now I want us to transition into sharing about our favorite thing to do as a couple. I think it's one of my favorite new traditions that you and I made. And this kind of goes back into making new traditions and transitioning from, like, our kids not being part of some of these holiday things with us anymore because they're getting older and stuff. But one of the things that you and I started doing is planning for the new year ahead. And in last week's episode, I talked about how I wrap up my year and shared my goals and, how I set up a sauna and all of that. And one of the things that Steve and I do, we started this last year and we're doing it again this year, is we plan a weekend to go away. We booked a hotel room. We're going to go away for a weekend, local. Last year we were in Dana Point. This year we're going to, where are we going? Like Calabasas area.
Something like that. It's
I don't
because
know.
it's free.
Yeah. We're That's the whole point of using your credit card, like, your rewards points, so you get free hotel nights, y'all. We got a Hilton credit Hilton Amex. It gets us free nights. So last year we got 2 free nights in Dana Point. This year we're getting 2 free nights in Calabasas or somewhere over there. Agora Hills, I think we're at. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's Agora Hills.
Yeah. So we're using this time to go away and to plan our goals and our years and be intentional of working together. So can you just kind of share like so this is something that we did prior to last year. We would spend a day, sit together and just, kind of look, these are the goals that I made. These are the goals we wanted to aim for together. Last year is the first year that we went away to do it. And we're going to do it again this year. So can you just kind of touch a little bit about what we do and all of that when we go away?
Well, I think first is to plan, and we made the reservation, I think it was in October,
I think so. Yeah.
for the room, and so we were obviously thinking about this in October, and I would say definitely plan it out, and then know where you're going, and I would say be intentional with everything that you do once. Like, we're intentional with everything we do, especially when it comes to, like, scheduling our goals, and one of the things like, me and Leslie came together at one point, I don't remember when it was, but it's like, "Hey, I wanna do this," and I'm like, "I wanna do that," and we're like, "Well, wait a minute, we're going in these directions, we gotta make sure that we come together and go down parallel paths versus 2 separate paths," because once we do that, like, it's gonna create chaos. There's definitely some compromise. It's like, well, okay, I won't be able to do that. Like, for some crazy reason, for my goal to get another camera doesn't ever make the list. And but it's okay. We have a couple
Not
cameras that
in our budget goals. That's why, my dear.
we have enough cameras right now to get us by. And I think for me, it's really fun because we get to actually come together in the goal making process, because we come together with our goals that are already done. And I want to say, before we started doing this, we didn't really put goals together.
Mhm.
Like, it was like, this is what I want to do, this is what you got to do. And it's easy to do that as a couple because, like, for instance, I'm doing something, I work in a completely different industry than Leslie has any intention to jump into. And so it's like, yeah, these are my goals. I have my personal and my professional goals. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to implement. And so for Leslie, it's the same thing, but like, it's like, okay, how do we come together? And part of that is, okay, these are our professional goals and these are our personal goals. And these are the goals that we want to do together, as far as like Leslie and Steve. And I think we wanted to try to get a car last year, but it just didn't plan out. And I think that was one of the things that we came together the year before to say, okay, let's try to get a car. Well, now it's like, no, we can't get a car for us. We need to get a car for Jacob,
Mhm.
because we want to make sure that he has some wheels to drive himself around, so we don't have to do that anymore. But first, he has to get his license. And I think, but it also allows us to spend time together, like just us, without the distractions of home stuff, without the distractions of the dogs, without the distractions of the kids. And like Leslie says, we don't go too far. We stay pretty local. And I would recommend going to Dana Point, because we found some really good places to eat in Dana Point.
So we're kind of like foodies when we go away to places. We Yelp local places. Anytime we go on vacation, it is a rule that we do not eat at like chain or franchise places, that we can eat at home. We always Yelp and look for local, kind of mom and pop shops places that we don't get to eat here. So even here in like, when we're in California, Dana Point is not that far from us, but we will look up, okay, what are the cool little breakfast spots down over here? We found a really amazing pizza place down over there that we need to go back to, by the way. And we found that Hawaiian cafe that we ate breakfast at. We ended up eating there both days that we were gone because the breakfast was so amazing. So that's just something that we do. I look forward to, okay, what are some places on Yelp that we're gonna go eat, we're gonna go try out. And then we just spend quality time in the room. Literally, I take my planner, we take our computers, iPad, whatever. And I shared in last week's episode, I already started planning my 2025. So we each plan our own individual goals. And then, like he said, we come together on this weekend and we're like, okay, we share our individual goals. And we also look, okay, how can I support Steve in the goals that he's aiming for? And the same with Steve. How, he's like, okay, how can I support you in the goals that you are aiming for? Um, goals with the podcast. Steve is a big part of the podcast, so he has to add those goals to his list also. And he will push me. He's the one who pushed me to get on YouTube this year. Y'all, that was a goal that we set this time last year when we went away for the weekend. He's like, I want to go to video. We got to get on YouTube. And I was the one who kind of kicked and screamed the whole time about it because like I said, I got to dress up now. I can't just throw a hat on, no makeup, and just not worry about a background and everything. I love just recording and not having to worry about my appearance for it. But now that we're on video, now it's a whole different ball game. But that was a goal that Steve had for the podcast that I was like, okay, I got to add it to my goals list. And it's something that even though kicking and screaming, I knew that this would help the podcast to grow. Um, so we collaborate on a lot of our goals. We support each other in our individual goals, and then we create goals as a family, in our finances, vacation, getaway stuff, even stuff that we wanted to do, like, okay, we should get back to maybe our family devotion times. We haven't done that for a minute. I think we had made the goal a few years back of doing our devotion time and stuff. And it's a time for us to sit and review and say what worked, what didn't, what do we need to get better at as not just a family, but as a husband and wife also. So I strongly recommend that you do that with your significant other, and you don't have to go away for a fancy weekend. Like I do if you can get away, go and get away. It gives you a reason to do it. But if finances and that is an issue, don't stress about going away to like a hotel or, a weekend, but get outside of your house. Maybe go find a park, maybe go find some place where you guys can sit in a quiet area and just share. Go grab lunch or something, go to a local park, spend an hour or something together, but be intentional with going with your goals already planned out. Like we said, Steve and I come together and we already have our stuff there. We just collaborate on what he has, on what I have, and then we say, "Okay, what do we need to integrate, put on each other's list?" Like, if I have that well, like last year, he had, "Hey, I wanna go to YouTube," and I didn't have that on my list for
No,
podcasts.
that's right.
I didn't, so I was like, kicking and screaming, like, "Alright, I'll add it to my list?" And there are things that, he had to add to his counterpart also. So you just gotta learn to come together in that, and I promise you when you are supporting each other with your goals and you know what each other are aiming for, it just gives a sense of accountability, support, and then also y a connection, I think, right, babe? Like,
Yeah.
we're just able to support each other on that, and like he has access we have access in Asana, like, I think we invited each other, right? But I don't ever really go in and check your goals, and I don't think you ever come in and check mine
No.
until the end of the year, really. But we update them. You have yours in Asana still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we both use Asana for that. I shared that again last episode. This year, I'm switching it up, and I'm gonna be putting my goals in Task, and Steve's gonna be like, well, Steve is like so Asana gung ho, so we'll see if we can make that transition. But
But
I
that was yes, I am because at one point they would offer it for a free version. Now they don't.
They
So I'm
don't.
like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know if I could be an advocate to say, yeah, go with it. Because I like Asana and it works. It's just everything costs money.
I know. Wait until you see Task. You'll really love it,
Uh,
babe. The podcast is gonna be a Task. Just
oh,
So there's a goal for Steve right there. Boom, transition to Meister task. Okay.
One that I didn't have in
Yes.
2025.
Yes, and he has a new goal now. So we're gonna wrap up now, y'all. This is just a fun, loose conversation with Steve and I, where you get to get it inside of some of the family traditions that we do over the holidays and just how we come together. We wrap up our year. And just as we wrap up, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
I'm gonna say to definitely continue to be patient this season because sometimes things don't work the way you want them to. But like I said earlier, as long as you're able to spend time together, that's all that really matters. And that, one of the things that we did do with the boys it wasn't about the gifts, it was about the time that we were able to spend together. And because I mean we continue to tell them and Christmas isn't Christmas because of the gifts, it's because Jesus was born and that's the reason why we celebrate. And so like regardless of your faith and whatnot, I would say you can twist it and turn it around to say, you know what, it's not about the gifts, it's about the time that we're able to spend together. And one of the things that we decided to do with the boys was, well, actually, me and Leslie don't really get Christmas gifts for each other.
Mm, that's
It's
right. We
it's
didn't even mention that, huh?
no, well, we don't, and
Yeah.
it's because we would rather put like for instance, spend that money on getting away and doing our planning for next year. Like
Yep.
that that would that's where some of that money goes. It goes to feeding us during that time that we're out there. And so to wrap up, I would say patience, compromise, and trust me, eventually that camera will get on the list and those goals will collide, but you just gotta trust and have patience.
Yes. And, okay, we totally did forget to mention about that we don't buy each other gifts. I wanna say, and maybe have mentioned this in a previous podcast, like Valentine's Day, our anniversary, Christmas, we don't buy each other gifts. What we do is we will plan a getaway weekend together. So for us, it's more about spending quality time together than giving each other things. And Steve knows, like, my love language is quality time, and I'd much rather quality time going away somewhere with him than, some fancy purse or a pair of earrings or something like that. Like, I'll just go buy that stuff myself when I want to. I
And
see a
the one
purse,
that you want.
I'll get it myself, babe. Guess what? I'll do you a favor. So we kinda stopped buying each other gifts when the kids started coming, right? And
Yeah,
it kinda started at first, it was like it was a money thing
yeah.
because we just wanted to spend money on the boys and getting them presents, so we sacrificed buying gifts for each other just so that our boys can have the best gifts possible. We wanted to make Christmas so magical for them that they woke up and, I mean, we probably spoiled them a little too much, but it first started off that, "Hey, let's just sacrifice buying each other gifts so that we could buy extra stuff for the boys." And then as money became a little more, not so hard for us during the holidays, then we just kinda got used to sacrificing that, and I'm like, "Well, I don't need anything for Christmas, like, let's go away," because when the kids
Yeah.
were little, that was just so hard for us to do. So I would even, ask my mom, like, "Mom, I think we kind of would go like January or February time, huh?" We'd
But it
say,
was only for a weekend.
yeah, we would just go away for a weekend, and that was what we spent our money on. And we'd always go somewhere close. We never would go far, think Palm Springs one weekend, here, wherever. We would just find a place to go and spend quality time, go eat at nice restaurants. And it was really about spending time together. So that could be something that if you're in the season where you have young ones, you have a lot of them, quality time is so important. Make it a point. And if that's the only gift that you ask of somebody is, "Can you just watch my kids
Yeah.
for one night, a day?" Like, that would be the greatest gift for us, and that's what I would ask my mom. "Mom, don't get me anything for Christmas, just watch my boys for a weekend as we go away." Time is the greatest gift that you can ask or give to anyone. So, as we wrap up, we just wanna leave you with this last thought. Traditions are not just routines. They are what allow you to connect with your loved ones and create everlasting memories that will just last years and years to come. And also just know that planning ahead isn't just about setting goals. It's about dreaming big with your loved one, and it's about sharing that journey, coming together to support each other and, have someone to be accountable with. And if it could be your significant other, a loved one, it's just going to help you that much further to pursue those goals and dreams. So, from our family to yours, we just want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year filled with joy, reflection, and togetherness. And until next time, keep chasing joy.